Welcome back to Dissect the Question. Get your scalpels out. A 50-year-old woman presents to her primary physician for a routine physical. Her medical history is unremarkable. Her only complaint is her appearance. She states concerns about facial wrinkling that she thinks makes her look older than she is. The physician recommends subcutaneous administration of botulinum toxin as a treatment. Which of the following is the primary site of the action of botulinum toxin in this woman? Well, her problem is wrinkling of the face, and we know botulinum toxin can be given as a drug known as Botox. Let's see how that works. Here's a motor neuron, and here is a skeletal muscle. So wrinkling has to do with skeletal muscles contracting, and if we can paralyze those skeletal muscles, we can make wrinkling less or maybe even disappear. So let's see how Botox works. Here are the vesicles in the motor neuron that are releasing acetylcholine onto a skeletal striated muscle that has acetylcholine receptors. When the acetylcholine binds to the receptor, a non-selective sodium-potassium cation channel opens up. Sodium and potassium enter. Well, I should say sodium enters and potassium goes out. There's more sodium entering than potassium leaves, and that's why we get an action potential and a contraction. So if we can paralyze this woman's muscles with Botox, she'll get some relief of her wrinkling. Now, where does Botox acting? Is it acting on the cholinergic acetylcholine receptor here? Is it acting on the ligand-gated sodium-potassium cation channel here? Or is it acting in the muscle on ryanodine receptors that release calcium? Ryanodine receptors release calcium for the contraction after we get the action potential. Or vesicular proteins. Where do we have vesicular proteins? Here in the motor neuron, we have the vesicular proteins that are responsible for exocytosis. That is the release or secretion of acetylcholine into the synapse at the motor end plate between the motor neuron and the skeletal muscle. How about voltage-gated channels? Well, we have voltage-gated channels all over the place in the motor neuron and on the skeletal muscle, but the voltage-gated channels are not there to initiate the contraction or initiate the electrical response. They promote the contraction once it's initiated by conducting a depolarization wave throughout the muscle, and the same thing happens in the nerve. There are sodium voltage-gated channels, and there are calcium voltage-gated channels. So here would be a sodium channel, and here would be a calcium channel. Now, the sodium channel is involved in propagating a depolarization wave. The calcium channel is involved in the exocytosis or secretion of the acetylcholine. So it looks like we have two possible answers here, don't we? We have the possibility that the vesicular proteins or the voltage-gated calcium channels here both are controlling exocytosis. So botulinum toxin could theoretically work on either one of them to cause a paralysis of the muscle and help the woman's facial wrinkling. So now we have to know exactly what botulinum toxin does. And we know that it affects the vesicular proteins. So that's the best answer.